is Video Game Sophistry.
I don't care what the kids are doing. VGS is on.
Battling the paralyzing grip of the world with only video games.
This is Video Game Sophistry.
Video game news.
Ways to waste time. Is there time to waste time?
Yes.
Here now are your time-wasting superheroes.
They're not superheroes. They have no superhero power.
Andy Borkowski. David Spargala. VGS.
Begins now.
Good evening, this is Andy Borkowski for VGS on Talk Radio AM 640, Video Game Sophistry. It's exciting. We are very, very excited to be sharing this show with you. We've been online on so many different websites, in 640, on the Edge, on Q, everything within Toronto. We love to talk about games, and we're here today to tell you a little bit about these great titles that you might not know exist. You know, maybe a lot of people listening right now aren't aware that the world of video games has evolved and changed and become something that is very comparable to experiences that you have, whether you love movies, music. I think a lot of people who listen to this show will think that these kind of experiences in games should be at the same level. Now, the title, Video Game Sophistry, we're going to get into that right away, starting with a 2010 article from the late, great Roger Ebert. In this quote that he said very distinctly, video games are not art. He said, games are distinct from work, which is usually carried out for remuneration, and from art, which is more concerned with the expression of ideas. Key components of games are goals, rules, challenges, and interaction. Basically, what that means in his mind, because there are rules, because there are systems at play, video games will never reach what his beloved movies did. Sophistry, that word, usually describes someone who's kind of poncy, kind of proper, that likes to examine things just for the case of it. And we believe here that video games have now reached a level that we need our own pretentious critics to make you feel stupid about it. I think that's what we need. So it's all in fun. It's a lot of great fun. And we intend to show you that this simple plaything of the past is actually complex, beautiful, and a new expression of media reaching a zenith in which humans can really blow past. We have the old and the new today. Fascinating new virtual reality and the ways of the past with writing. We talked to Patrick Weeks. He's a writer at one of the biggest video game studios in the world about how to write for games. In my mind, art is a way of communicating ideas to an audience in a way that the audience finds engaging.
You don't like art?
Well, come on now.
You play video games?
Yes.
Well, guess what, buddy? You like art.
Yep.
You ever been to Subway?
Yes.
You order a sandwich? Somebody put that together for you, dude. That's art.
Sandwich artist.
Thanks, James Franco.
Thanks, James Franco, indeed. All right, yeah, it's not just, these long-winded talks of the great artistry of video games. We have a lot of fun here, and the man to ensure that we have fun, the person that makes sure every moment has a bit of laughter, is sitting to my left, pressing the buttons, my counterpart, the beloved Shaggy Davidson.
Hi.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited.
This is exciting,
Very
right?
excited.
We are so excited. Sunday night, cold outside, happy to talk about video games.
Anytime we're happy to talk about video games.
You're right about that. Maybe we should probably explain who we are a little bit.
Okay, you want to go first?
No.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, as you know, my name is Shaggy Dave. I am a technical producer here at AM 640 and at Q107. I love video games. I grew up with them,
Yes,
so
indeed.
I guess I'm qualified for the show.
And we've been doing this for years.
We've been doing this for a couple of years, yeah. I mean, it's very exciting to get the chance to do this and share our opinions and our thoughts about all our video game experiences and what they mean to us. And is there anything else you would like to know about me, Andy?
I know too much.
Okay.
I know too much, Dave. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue.
Wrong. Okay, so I'm Andy Borkowski, news anchor here at 640. You might have heard me a few times going on the air, talking sillily about news. Sillily? We'll go with that.
Sure.
We'll work with that. But yeah, I've been the main host here for many, many years with VGS. It's been online. and so many different places. And we've had a great success with that. You know, a lot of people have really enjoyed it online. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. Right off the bat, if you are listening to this and you want to give some feedback right away, please do. Send us an email about what you think. Any moment you're listening to the show and you feel like, you know what, these guys said something that don't make any sense. Video games on AM 640, I got to tell them no. Send us an email. That is VGS at 640toronto.com. Online, if you want to see any of the stuff that we're talking about, because we have 1 hour of the show here. Online, though,
it's what am I looking for? I'm just going to say it's endless.
It is endless. We have so much content. A lot of it's uncensored. A lot of it is not, it's not explicit. It's just we can speak as we intend to.
Your discretion is advised.
Your discretion is advised. We interview a lot of people, but we only have a short amount of time that we can actually talk about this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I know.
In these interviews. So we put it up online, and that's when you can really communicate with us and tell us, how you feel. So again, VGS at 640toronto.com to send an email. On the Twitters, as always, at VGS.
At VGS_640.
Yes, Dave needs to tell me. I wrote it down because I am apparently inept at social media.
It's okay. That's why I'm here. At VGS_640 if you don't like to use email, which I guess if you really hate us, then 140 characters isn't a lot, so you might as well send an email. We
also have 640, if you want to see the main page, it's 640toronto.com/VGS. We're on the Edge's website. We're on, Dave FM. If all throughout Canada, every corner of the nation, you hear our silly voices talking about these games. We're there. And today, what are we talking about, Dave? Any idea? Did I tell you?
You might have told me. We are talking about virtual reality troopers.
Virtual reality.
No, not troopers. Just virtual reality.
VR, the stuff of the 90s. Exciting. Well, there's been big announcements this week at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, all about VR. So we're going to get into that. Very, very excited about it. If you don't really know what it is, Dave and I are really going to go in deep because Dave, you're a little reticent. You're not 100% yet.
No, not yet.
That strange noise means no.
I might need some convincing.
Some convincing. That's why I'm here. And then our feature interview, like I said a few minutes ago, is a man we've talked to so many times. He's such a great writer and a great advocate for video games. If you're looking at games as, I don't really care about this kind of stuff. I like my media. I like getting my stories from movies and books. This guy will really convince you that games are something bigger. His name is Patrick Weeks. He is the lead writer at a studio, Bioware, actually here in Edmonton. So it's all Canadian, some great content here. And he talks all about making and writing for video games.
Excellent.
It's really cool. And he brings up a lot of stuff that for a lot of people that don't have any tech background, but they love stories and they want to write about it. Mm-hmm. There's apparently jobs out there. And he'll help you find it. You all right?
Yeah.
You okay? Live radio, folks. There we go. All right, so very, very exciting. Thanks again. I cannot wait to talk more about virtual reality. We got to take a break, though. We cannot talk forever. Again, this is VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Now back to Video Game Sophistry with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
There we have it. Some of our favorite video game sounds of the past brought to you on AM 640 on this beautiful Sunday evening. Send us a comment, a message, VGS at 640toronto.com or at VGS_640. If you know what that little ditty was, we play a lot of video game music. Oh, little
I see what
ditty.
you did there.
You notice?
Yeah.
If you recognize any of the themes and noises that we play in this make in this hour-long VGS show, then please send us the answers to it, and we'll feature it on next week's show because we always love it when people recognize our hard work. So, David Spargala.
Yes, Andy Borkowski.
We are talking today about changes in the world of video game. Do you remember? Because I have something in my mind. I remember waking up. I got to be maybe 12 or 13 years old.
Long time ago.
All right. And I remember waking up and seeing for the very first time my own video game console that was just for me.
So your parents like bought it for you and set it up for you? And,
Yeah, that it was just for me, all set up. And because the other things, in the past, impoverished family, we had to share things, and it was
Who wants
everyone's.
to share it? Nobody
Yes,
wants to
but this was my one thing, and I remember very, very vividly booting up a game called Dynasty Warriors and seeing 3D graphics for really, I would almost say the first time, because there were some on the PlayStation 1, but with PlayStation 2, to really see fully realized 3D graphics that looked exciting and looked fun and were really, really immersive. I remember looking at that and saying, wow, this is the future. Yeah. Do you remember any times in your video gamedom where you held something in your hands, you looked at the screen, and you as a kid, as an adult, really thought that, this is the future?
I remember my N64. It was like one of the first consoles I got, and I was glued to that thing, man. You couldn't separate me from that thing.
Never.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just glued to that thing, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And now that I have it, I bought another one, and I look back, I'm like, oh my God, these graphics are just horrible.
Yeah, these little squares.
What
floating on the
happened? And now you
screen
look at it's like everything though. When you got the PS2, it's like, okay, Gran Turismo came out. It's like, oh, look at the car, it's so detailed. You can see the chrome shine on the. Okay, and now you go back and just like, oh.
Well, now here's the change. We look back, and at the time, that seemed like the height of what we would create. When really now we're going one more step into the future.
Now, Job Smith is about to enter the world of virtual reality.
It's gonna hit me! No, Joe, just relax.
It's going to be like being up there with the stars, Job. They're going to another planet.
All right, that is a clip from Lawnmower Man. Yeah, James Bond is taking kids into the future. It's this crazy, just awful Stephen King movie.
It looks terrible.
It is. That was the pinnacle of what virtual reality is. Now, in 2016, very, very different story. At the Consumer Electronics Show this week, they showed the new face of virtual reality, the Oculus Rift, which is one of the kind of most preeminent devices that allow you to enter this virtual world, was released. It's going to be out in March. Pre-orders came out. We got a price tag. If you want to jump into this world, how much would you spend to have a really fully realized, still right out of the box, but virtual reality experience?
I mean, this is the first thing that we're getting, so it's like anything, man. There's going to be kinks.
Give me a number.
I'm going to say $750.
Well, $7.50?
No, $750.
You are crazy because it's going to cost you. See, you're a little close to that. It is $850. $850.
That's Canadian.
That's Canadian. Yeah, $600 American if you're getting right out of the box.
Let's just go to America and buy it.
This corporation was bought out by Facebook, and they're showing a lot of the specs for it, and it's really interesting because this device actually requires 7 times the regular computing power to show a game as it would for any of the normal games that you play. It switches devices from 30 frames a second to 90. Ooh. It's literally taking 2 big screen TVs with the highest definition, shrinking them, and putting them in front of your face.
Wow.
And it does in pretty exciting ways. The Oculus Rift is one of the, like I said, the most preeminent devices that allow you to experience this world. There are some other options, though. So if you don't have $850 in your pocket,
like I do,
there are some other options. There's the HTC Vive from Valve. It's a HTC computer-based company. Valve, of course, very famous game developer. They have a really cool device because what they're doing, most virtual reality devices are these big, thick black glasses that you put over your head. They fully obfuscate your view. You put, headphones on, and you see a world around you by moving physically. The HTC Vive, which isn't out yet, most likely going to be out in April, has a camera on the front of this device.
Okay.
So instead of just living in a world that's in your head, this will physically look at the world around you, allow you to walk around it, but what you see isn't what's actually there. So that is their new innovation. The only issue is they are really far away from consumer release.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going to be on the shelves anytime soon. And if you want it virtual reality right now, you can get it.
You can pre-order it.
No, there is virtual reality available right now. It's called the Samsung Gear VR. It uses a Samsung phone and another device it only costs about $140, $150 Canadian. And yeah, it's a real fun experience. I've watched a couple of movies on that.
Oh.
It's still very pixelated,
Okay.
unfortunately, but it really is the new innovation, the new future of how not only we'll experience games, but how we will experience just, I think, any sort of monitor that you need to look through. I'm thinking in the next 5 years, we won't have the monitors that we have today.
Really?
That's my bet right now, because I've seen this stuff in action, and it seems to be the next natural progression of visualized technology.
Interesting.
A lot of people have some concerns. You know, there's concerns that they're going to get sick, and there are some real issues with that, but they're working through it so that locomotion, movement in this world actually makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, or unfortunately, the biggest focus right now for virtual reality is something that is used for pornography.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
That is where a lot of the money is, because these people are using these devices to, for lack of a better term, put you in the driver's seat. And, you know, there's no actual stimulation. There's nothing that, you know, has any kind of sensation. You're just seeing the world around you.
Yeah.
But it's changing a lot of the ways people consume that kind of stuff. And just like we had with Blu-rays, the reason we have Blu-rays today is because the porn industry went behind it.
Okay.
If they went behind HD drivers, we would not have Blu-ray devices. So the fact that the porn industry is getting behind virtual reality, that's why I think we're not going to have it here. Now, what are some of your questions? What is one of the reasons that you, David Spargala, the Luddite beside me, might not jump right into this?
Number one, the price tag. It's a little too pricey for sure.
It's huge. I think it's almost people wouldn't be able to afford this.
Not at all.
Or it's someone that spends their money frivolously.
It's true. And another thing, it kind of freaks me out that you have this thing on the entire time. Like so much stuff now with like radiation and all that stuff.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Just
That's all right.
Yeah. Okay. With cell phones, you know how you don't keep it in your pocket, or you put. Everybody's glued to these things too much. I think it kind of freaks me out. I don't want to have this thing on my face and look like Kylo Ren from Star Wars the entire time. You know what I'm saying? And it's just you never know with these things. I mean, I wouldn't get it right away.
Why wouldn't you get it right away?
Because like I said, there's gonna be kinks and the price tag. I mean, I would wait for like what's a cheaper. Like the cheaper edition or something like that. You want
the monthly? Well, there's one that's only $130.
I don't have a Samsung phone.
Yeah, that is the issue, and it's not the same experience. Like I've seen both.
And the Samsung phone is like what, $600 by itself anyway. So you're still buying it.
Well, the most important thing we're talking about the tech. What about the games? You know, what game do you need? The lineup that they have so far is a little bit slim.
Okay.
You're not going to be playing Call of Duty.
No, of course not.
You're not going to be playing, Grand Theft Auto on these devices, unfortunately. Right now, you're not going to do that right now. But it's a lot of just kind of locomotion-based, where are we now type of things. It's gimmicky games. Like, you remember when the Wii U came out and the Kinect came out?
Yeah.
It had a lot to do with features. There was that Star Wars Kinect game that everyone hated that just basically used the tech to be a toy instead of an actually storytelling device. What game would you need right out of the gate? And if anyone's listening, please, send us your answers, VGS at 640toronto.com, what you would need to purchase this $850 device right away. What games would you need? What kind of tech would you need? David Spargala, what's your answer?
I would say like something driving-wise. I think that's pretty cool, especially because you're in the driver's seat. Like
there you go. That simple, eh?
Yeah. Anything like that.
Well, I'm a big believer. I'm going to get it either way. I'm a sucker. I'm such a sucker for this stuff. So that is the music. Again, if you know what this is, tell us, and we'll give you a prize of kudos and admiration. This is Andy Borkowski, David Spargala, VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
You're listening to VGS with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy here. Thank you so much for joining us. Video Game Sophistry, the hour-long program on Talk Radio AM 640, where we get you up to date on all the video game news and maybe try and convince you to jump into this world. that you know nothing about. I'm Andy Borkowski, joined by
Shaggy Davis Bargalla.
Yes, indeed. And right now we're going to talk about our most anticipated games of 2016. Let it sink in. The anticipation is building.
That's it.
That's all.
That's disappointing. I know.
We couldn't. There was nothing more.
No, there was no more.
There's no more drum rolls.
It needed a longer drum roll.
In the world of radio.
No.
Video games 2016. You know, we don't know a lot just yet. No. It's pretty slim pickings so far.
It just started.
Oh,
by the way, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year, all our listeners.
Yes.
Whatever that sentence was. What do you think is... I'll let you start because I'm known to be pretty verbose and take time with my words. So I think you should be fair if you start. What is your most anticipated game of 2016?
According to witnesses, the victim was uncooperative with the robber, which led to the gunshot.
Oh, come on.
It's what he is, a rich bum. I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, it may be true, but that family has been...
Topping the list again as the most eligible bachelor, though his recent erratic behavior might...
Take back the night to restore this city to the glory that it held long before this. He took our responsibility from us.
Ooh. Oh. Mysterious.
What is that jumble of noises?
That is the beauty of Telltale, the new Batman Telltale game.
Oh,
that's
man.
A trailer. It's not the game. It's a trailer.
That's a trailer. That's for people that are not familiar. That's a trailer, a little glimpse into a video game. So yeah, why Telltale Batman?
Man, these games, the Telltale games, they are amazing. I started with The Walking Dead Season 1,
indeed.
And I was hooked from then.
What are the games like for our listeners that maybe haven't played them before?
What they are like choose your own adventure. All these decisions make, it's kind of like a Mass Effect game where all these decisions, it affects the outcome of your ending.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you make, like, I want to kill this guy, or do I want to save this person? I think they're going to do a really good job with Batman. Look what they've done with Game of Thrones. They've done with Walking Dead. Even Jurassic Park. I didn't mind that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they can do. Like, I bet, like, you have to save with the Joker. Like, you're going to have to save Gordon. You're going to have to save someone else. It's.
Do you think you'll kill people? Do you think you'll play as Batman, though?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I think they're known as, because in Game of Thrones, you weren't playing as Tyrion. You were none of the main characters.
Not yet.
They're done. Game of Thrones is done.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Season 2.
All right, whatever. But this game, that's a good choice because that game series is really good for people that aren't familiar with games.
Yeah.
To jump right in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. What about you?
My game is a game series that I have loved for probably 5 or 6 years.
We will say goodbye, and you will look back one last time and know that wherever you go, we will be with you. This is Commander Shepard, signing off.
Oh, Commander Goosebumps.
Very excited.
I got him everywhere. For those that are not familiar, shame on you. That is the voice of Commander Shepard, the main protagonist in the game series of Mass Effect. It's Bioware, it's Mass Effect, it's a big space opera. Think Star Trek and Star Wars with tighter writing and more interesting characters. You know, I have not talked to anyone, because you have pretty discerning taste. You know, you like certain games, you hate certain games.
Yep.
I love them all, I'll consume them all. But even you know that Mass Effect's pretty great.
I don't like those RPGs, but I gave Mass Effect a shot and I fell in love with it.
It is something, it has a little bit of magic, and this game we know almost nothing about. It's a whole new take on the series. We had 3 original games that explored the world that we knew, and now we're going to a whole new world. Can't wait for it. And to give us a little taste of what that kind of world will be, we're very fortunate. We're talking today with...
Who?
What's that? Patrick Weeks, the lead writer at BioWare, the company that makes these sort of games. He deals with the more fantasy side of Dragon Age. We're going to talk in depth with him all about how he wrote for games. You know, if you're interested in getting involved in this industry, he's here to help you get a job. I'm Andy Borkowski. We'll be back right after this. VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
You're listening to VGS with Andy Borkowski and David Spargalla on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Welcome back to VGS. Talk Radio AM 640. I'm Dave Spargala, along with Andy Borkowski, waiting patiently for his interview. Yes, it is feature interview time. By the way, if you're just joining us, this is the show about everything video games and tech. But like I said, it is feature interview time. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wanted to be a writer on a video game, but you just didn't know how to go about doing it? Well, we got the answer. Patrick Weeks, writer at Bioware. He's here. He's with Andy right now. And he's about to share the secret of how you, yes, you, can get a job in the industry.
In the world of narrative storytelling, Bioware is king. From Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, Mass Effect, and of course the Dragon Age franchise, the company knows how to create believable characters and worlds. Today, we get the chance to speak to one of the minds that helps mold those worlds. Patrick Weeks, writer at Bioware, and now the lead writer in the Dragon Age universe, has joined us. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, how does it feel, to be in the mantle now of such a deeply loved and deeply researched Dragon Age universe?
Well, there's a fun mix of paralyzing terror and exhilaration. Dave Gator has been the lead writer of the Dragon Age franchise since there was a Dragon Age franchise, and it's obviously daunting for me to come in and try to carry that forward, but it's a huge world. It's had so much love poured into it, and we have so many fans who care passionately about the franchise that I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do with it.
And you're by no means just a new face off the street to come right at this, really beloved franchise. Tell us a little bit about your work at Bioware.
Sure. I started actually on the Dragon Age, on Dragon Age Origins, and worked on that for a few months before being transferred over into Mass Effect, and then I worked on the entire Mass Effect trilogy. And after Mass Effect was done, Dragon Age Inquisition asked if I could come over and write a few characters, and that turned into spending a couple of years helping Dragon Age Inquisition come together, and it was fantastic being part of that team. And as Dave was ready to head out and move on to a new title, an unannounced title that he's going to help build as the new franchise, they asked if I would like to take over on Dragon Age, and it's been fantastic so far.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background. Why did you make the choice to get involved as a writer in video games? I imagine when you first started, it wasn't perhaps the most well-known title for writers. It's not a traditional way to kind of spread that skill.
No, it's definitely a job where you sometimes have trouble explaining to your parents what you do for a living.
Okay.
I have always considered myself a writer. It's first and foremost what I've wanted to do, whatever my day job at the time was. And for me, it was a matter of combining my love of writing. So I wrote short stories. I wrote very bad novels that no one but my wife would ever see. Mm-hmm. And in my spare time, I was a tabletop Dungeons and Dragons game master and had a great time with that. And when I had the chance, the opportunity came up for me to apply, and I said, I love writing. I love making games for, people to play in and curse at and laugh in, and I just couldn't imagine not taking the chance. BioWare games were the games that I would buy sight unseen whenever I found one in the store. They were my favorite games. I always loved them for their stories. The BioWare games and the Black Isle, that later turned into Obsidian, their games. Whenever I would see something new for them, I would buy them. So just the chance to work with that, there was no way I was going to pass that up.
And since that time, how has the kind of preconceived notions of what writing in video games was, what you thought it was, and what it is, how has that been shattered, or was it exactly what you thought it would be?
Well, it's evolved, and I think it's been fascinating to see it evolve, because when I arrived at BioWare, it was right before Jade Empire shipped, so we'd shipped KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, and what we'd seen was Knights of the Old Republic was the first BioWare game that had full voiceover. And everything before that was closer to you writing, as a writer at BioWare, you were writing something closer to short stories with choices in them. And Knights of the Old Republic marked the shift where we started getting full voiceover. Same for, then Jade Empire carried that forward. And when Mass Effect moved to a voiced protagonist, you really saw the shift from, okay, we are writing interactive novels to, okay, we are writing interactive screenplays. And that was a fascinating transition. It really, as we got more cinematic support, we were able to start writing and trusting the VO. I write novels, hopefully now that other people beyond my wife get to see in my spare time. And it's interesting the difference between writing for a novel and writing for a Bioware game now, because the dialogue in a Bioware game is going to be voiced over. And if the conversation is at all important, you're going to have a fully cinematically staged scene. And the good news on that is that what that means is you can trust that you're going to have an actor who's trying to deliver that line for you. You don't have to say, I'm really angry that you said that, like you did back on Neverwinter Nights, back on Baldur's Gate, because you've got an actor who can do that. There are times with the cinematics where you don't even need someone to say something grumpy. It can just be a change of facial expression that you can trust to sell that. And the challenge in that is learning to develop that trust and learning to work with a team. The voiceover, the actors, Caroline Livingston, our directors, learning to work with the cinematics team to figure out, to get everyone onto the same vision, to get everyone to understand, okay, this is the scene we're trying to tell, this is what we're trying to go with, and and making sure that it's the right scene as well. I can say making sure everyone understands that, and that makes it sound like I'm always right. And there are many times when I'll be halfway through writing a scene, and the cinematic designer or cinematic animator will say, this actually seems like you're writing this kind of scene, and I'll realize, oh wow, I'm writing the wrong words for this. They're totally right. I need something else to sell this.
Well, it's fascinating to see how there was that pointed difference. One of the big questions we got, because for those who are listening, Patrick, people know him on Twitter. People know him, of course, in the Bioware forums. And we asked the question here, what would be some questions you'd have for Patrick? And one of the biggest ones was the difference between writing for a Bioware game and writing the novels that you do about that Bioware universe. So basically what you're saying is now you're in the universe of screenplays, and that's something you didn't exactly expect when you signed on that many years ago.
A little bit, yeah. I was definitely more of a short story writer, and it's taken me a little while to get used to screenplay writing, or being closer to a screenplay writer. It's interesting now, when I go back to write novels, I'm not used to having the liberty to say, the hero thought about this, which had been really difficult. This made them sad, because I'm not used to actually, I'm used to writing with, I guess what novelists call camera eye viewpoint. You can't actually tell what's in the person's head, because I don't, with a cinematic designer, I can't say, Commander Shepard is feeling sad, the Inquisitor is feeling sad. I have to say, okay, I need a happy expression here. I need a sad expression.
Yeah. We'll be back right after this short break with Patrick Weeks, the lead writer at Bioware on the Dragon Age franchise. This is VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Now back to Video Game Sophistry with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
We are back here, VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640, one of the most iconic tunes in gaming right behind me as I speak. We're continuing our conversation with Patrick Weeks, the lead writer on Bioware, probably the biggest video game company in Canada, if not the world, and it's a video game company that is famous for its writing. It's really in-depth writing, and he's the lead writer. Enjoy. Where do you see it going in the next transitionary phase? You talked about how, now we have real screenplays. More tech is coming. Where's it going next?
Well, I'm really happy with, it's funny, I've been really happy on every game I've worked on. I was really happy with Mass Effect. I think the Mass Effect trilogy, you look at over the course of the trilogy, by the time we got to Mass Effect 3, and especially by the time we got to the Citadel DLC, which was our kind of swan song of the Mass Effect trilogy, we had really nailed, here is a science fiction action movie as a video game. We had that experience, and we had the cinematics. And I feel like on Dragon Age Inquisition, we are beginning to move forward from that to say, okay, we can have cinematic moments, so we can have moments that are movie-like. We can have, this is like a Lord of the Rings movie, because it's fantasy. That's the kind of movie moment we're trying to create. But we can marry that to places that don't need cinematics, places where we can start to integrate the cinematics with the gameplay more. And I think if you look at the very first movies, people were basically filming stage plays. They understood that they could film it and show it in theaters, but they didn't know how to make use of the fact that this was being filmed. So they were running it basically like a stage play. No camera cuts, nothing that we expect in a modern movie these days. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we do with that in video games. There are already things we can do that a movie, no matter how good, can't do, because a video game is interactive. And I think anything we can do that increases how much we make use of that interactivity plays to the strengths of the video games and is going to get us the experiences that even now we can't remember. Or I can't remember. Even now we can't imagine. I think, one of the most interesting parts of Dragon Age Inquisition is the ability that you can walk away from someone in mid-conversation, in some of the light conversations. And that's something that it's not huge, but it gives the player freedom. And the more we could do stuff like that, I think the stronger our games are going to get as it starts to become less this is the part where I walk, this is the part where I shoot, this is the part where I talk, and more of a fully immersive experience.
Well, again, those are great instances of where you see it going. Do you have any specific notions that you guys have been toying around with? Stuff that's, just ideas in the sky at this point?
Well, one of the things that we tried to do in our first piece of DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, it's called Jaws of Hakon, and one of the things we tried to do with it is we tried to move away from the very, very strong wall of this is plot content. It's going to have a lot of cutscenes. It's going to have very, very high fidelity. And then over here on the other side, this is wilderness. This is where you explore. There's lots of freedom there. We tried to blur that line a little bit and say, okay, what if you had a plot that had the same level of freedom, but brought in a little bit more cinematic focus, or used the cinematic focus without taking away the freedom. Technically, that just means getting actors to do things without taking camera control away from the player. It's very difficult. There are so many ways that giving the player control while another actor on the screen is trying to do something like climb a wall or open a door for you. There are so many ways you can break that. And as video game designers, what we're trying to figure out is how to give you the most freedom possible without completely breaking the story. We want to give you the freedom to feel like you're immersed, but make it difficult for you to accidentally, knock the guy who's supposed to open the door for you off a ledge.
Yeah.
And then you can never complete the story. It's something that open world games like Skyrim have been dealing with, and we're looking at the way they deal with that. I don't think we'll ever go completely that open world, because we also are usually trying to deliver a focused story experience, and part of that is basically asking the players to voluntarily give up some freedom in exchange for what we hope is an emotionally engaging story. But I can see us trying to shift that balance a little bit to see if we can give some more freedom that, perhaps in the same way that as we move from novel writing to screenplay writing, we had to learn to develop trust with the voice actors, with the cinematic designers. I can see us merging gameplay and cinematic experiences by learning to develop our trust with the players.
And what are some different ways you can develop that trust with the players?
A lot of it is training. Training the player to do the right thing, to say, okay, look, here's something if you tell them a lot of fun experiences are where we look at a game and realize we have accidentally trained the player to do exactly the wrong thing.
Really?
We sent you through an entire dungeon, and every time a skeleton appears, it attacks you. Well, you should attack that skeleton on sight. And then in the next dungeon, here's a skeleton, and you're supposed to talk to him and get a quest from him and do that. Well, no, there's no way I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. I've been trained to attack that skeleton on sight. So we have, as a game company, in that instance, we've done a bad job of training the player. And I think there are times when we've gotten used to one example. In a lot of cases, especially in the older games, we had, in Dragon Age, people would be walking around the world, and your followers would start talking to each other, and the dialogue is hilarious. I can praise it because I wasn't on those games, but it's great dialogue, and it's fun and it's flavorful. But if you kept walking in those games, sometimes you would get into a fight and the dialogue would cut off. So what we have trained every player to do, every player who cares about hearing that banter between followers, is if you're walking through the world and people start saying anything, you stop because you don't want to miss it. Now, in Inquisition, we say, okay, well, can we undo that training? Can we get the player to feel comfortable with, oh, I hear that, oh, they're talking now. I'm going to keep walking. And I'm going to trust that the video game is not going to spring a combat on me and make me lose this fun banter that I like. And, I think in some cases it works, in some cases it doesn't. It's trust and it's training and it's, teaching everybody what they need to do to have the best possible time. Us while making it and the players while playing it.
Big thanks to Patrick Weeks, lead writer at Bioware, for joining the program, talking all about how the world of video game writing is changing and how it's important. That was a small bit of our conversation. We actually spoke with him for up to 2 hours. Oh. It was exciting. I know. I'm glad that you liked it too, Dave.
No, I would never talk to someone for 2 hours.
All of that is available online, 640 Toronto /VGS. Make sure you check it out. We'll be back right after this break.
You're listening to VGS with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy Borkowski here. Thank you all so much for listening and taking part in this week's episode of VGS. David, how was it?
I think it was good.
Was it good for you?
Yes.
It was great for me. Honestly, this was a great experience. Next week we'll be here, same time, same great station. It's lovely outside. Big thanks to Patrick Weeks, the lead writer of Bioware. Video games, VR, good times. Make sure you send us an email at VGS@640toronto.com.
Yes.
That's it, right?
And tweet us.
What's the Twitter again?
VGS_640.
Yeah.
I'm at ShaggyDave640. The Shaggy Dave is my Instagram if you want to get good pictures.
All right, that's enough. But again, if you have anything that you heard on the show that you liked, there's more of that great content online. This is hour 1. Go online, listen to hour 2. There's a whole lot more. 640toronto.com/VGS. We're all here. I'm Andy Borkowski.
And I'm Shaggy Dave.
And this is VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Without a doubt, the worst episode ever. Rest assured that